Hello and welcome to That's So Craven, your one-stop shop for all things Fulham. This is Dave and this is After Dark. And tonight we'll be discussing Fulham's win over Cambridge on Tuesday, the cup draw, and Sunday's game at Villa Park. First, welcome to everyone who's joining us live tonight on X, YouTube, and Facebook. Please send in your questions and your comments, and we'll try and answer those throughout the show. So on the show tonight, I'd like to welcome back a man who's a bit frustrated by Tuesday's game. So I'm looking forward to talking some sense into him. Mark, are you fired up for tonight's show? I know you're 3 pints deep. Are you ready to unleash the fury?
Oh, 100%. So, as Dave has already alluded to, I've had 3 pints, I've had 2 Tylenols, and one burning desire to prove Dave wrong. So, let's get into Cambridge and all the other bits and pieces we came to talk about.
Yeah, we should just get straight into it because there is quite a few things to talk about, as I alluded to at the start there. Let's do Cambridge. And probably we should start with what we thought was going to happen before the game and the predictions that we made before the game. We do a prediction league in our Discord channel now, which has got great support. It's a lot of fun. And I can't remember. What did you put down, Mark, for this one?
I don't participate. I should participate, but I lack confidence, so I let other people sort of predict in my stead. But I did say, I think on the previous pod and in our group chat, I wanted us to thump them. I wanted us to be utterly classless about it. I'm talking 4-0, 5-0, goals galore, flicks, tricks, and everything in between. And that's not what we got, was it, Dave?
It's not what we got. I think I'd put 3-2. I thought it was going to be. I mean, it looks
Oh.
ridiculous now, doesn't it? After the type of game it was, but I thought it would be a little bit more open than it was, and I thought it was going to be closer than a lot of other people did, but I still thought there'd be goals. There wasn't goals, Mark. But I think we should start before we talk about the performance, the lineup. I think most people had pretty much predicted the lineup. There was a bit of clamour and a bit of hope that Chukwueze might get a run out, but we all know Marco Silva, and I think we all knew that was going to be quite unlikely that he was going to get thrown in to the starting 11. Adama started. Was it as you saw it, Mark, or was there any surprises in the squad, I suppose, overall?
No, not really, which is disappointing, right? I think in the previous conversation I had with Jack, he pretty much had the lineup nailed on, other than he had Chuku starting, and I said Adama's going to start because Adama's been there longer. That's what
Yeah.
happened. And I believe, even if Marco wanted to, and he's not the type of manager that would put in Chukwueze from the start or Akusi Asare from the start, or even start Seth Ridgen, right? Some other viewers and listeners was talking about putting in our youth, which I think is a great idea. But
Mm,
Marco will play conservative, and he will play the team he believes will have to play in the Premier League. And
sure.
in his mind, that is Adama, that is Raul, that is Tom Kearney and Harrison Reed. And that's what we saw, for better or for worse. They played like I thought they were gonna play, but God, I mean that first half I was absent for about half of it because I was cooking, but it doesn't seem like I missed a whole bunch.
No, you didn't really. I think, look, the first half was disappointing. Cambridge had come along with fantastic support. I mean, they pretty much filled the Putney end,
Mm-hmm.
which was
Mm-hmm.
really, really great to see. I suppose it's just a big occasion for those guys to come play a Premier League club, and to bring that amount of people over for it, I thought was fantastic. The team lineup for Cambridge was very much a 4-4-2, but it was kind of 4-4-2 in their own penalty area. They really kind of, put everyone behind the ball. It was a super ultra low block, and that's a situation Fulham have struggled with over the last few seasons. The low block mark, and you were frustrated. You thought we should do better, right?
I think that Marco Silva still, maybe he sees it as a training session as well, but he still places such an emphasis and premium on control. And I think with a team that is 3 leagues below us, with the amount of talent we have, that we should just be going for it. Right? Not to the point of silliness, not to the point of like a suicidal all-out attack, but we have the talent and the money to shine, right? I would argue that the discrepancy in value and skill between us and Cambridge has got to be the same, if not bigger, than us and Man City. And we can employ a low block against Man City. They're still going to find a way. So I don't understand why we didn't use this time to sort of express ourselves and sort of just be a lot more attacking and adventurous. Because Tom Kenny said it in his interview a while back, right after he had that lovely film, that documentary that we put on, that him and Steph Joe would sometimes take bets on hanging back so they could counterattack. Why didn't we sort of give a false sense of hope to Cambridge so they can come out of their shell a little bit, attack us, and we can create space from behind? I think Marco is such a perfectionist and a tactician that he almost wants it to be like a game of chess. But you know, when we up against an opposition that we feel we can bully, I want us to sort of take those risks and to utilize our skill.
It's interesting that you think it was kind of a directive from Marco to be, I suppose, a bit more cautious. For me, I just think the first half we just lacked any kind of pace. We needed to move the ball around a lot quicker than we did. And I think when we came out for the second half, I'm jumping ahead here, but when we came out for the second half and we moved the ball around quickly, all of a sudden we started making some chances. And Marco said it after the game, just too slow in the first half, needed to pick the pace up. And I think it goes back to, for me personally, and I think that I don't want to read too much into this game because I think it's very difficult to break down a low block, no matter, even if it is a League Two team. If they park everyone in the box and you're not moving the ball quick enough, you're going to struggle. And I think Kearney and Reed in particular, and they weren't the only ones, but they were just far too slow in possession. They were just too slow. They weren't not moving the ball around quick enough. And what that meant is when they did get it to our attacking players, Adama and Kevin in particular, who we were trying to use, because it wasn't getting to him quick enough, he had 2 players to beat every time, which, is really difficult to do. You're going to need a bit of luck if you're trying to get dribble past 2 players. So I think, Steve, great minds, Steve, because exactly the same. I thought both of those guys and their experience, they should have, personally, I think they should have identified that we needed to speed things up on the ball and pick up the pace of that game a lot quicker than we did. And I think we'd have broken the deadlock sooner. But they set the tempo in there for me, and it just wasn't really good enough. Mark, am I being harsh on those 2? Or no. Surely this is a position as well that, we talked about all summer, we needed an 8. This is the reason. It's just the backup isn't strong enough, in my opinion. It's, 2 players who I think one of which is still a quality player, but he's at the end of his career. And the other, I think we've kind of progressed beyond. Not to be harsh, he's been a great servant, Harrison Reed, but I just don't think he's at the level that we aspire to be now. And I think it's just glaringly obvious that we missed a trick not bringing in another midfielder in the summer.
Yeah, 100% right. Like, I think both our viewpoints can coexist, right, at the same time, in that it's a manager's directive, but also the players themselves were too slow. And how many times have Fulham fans said this, right? In that we always pass, and then we need to think, and then we need to look, and then we pass again. We never pass into space, or we never do one-touch passing. We never do these like lovely 1-2s to sort of create space and create opportunity. So I think we were overly conservative, and that just the thinking, the passing was not quick enough. And Steve Reynolds is absolutely right. TC, Reedy, great servants, both leadership figures. So it'll be very interesting to see who steps up there. We've seen Anderson take the captain's armband. We know Leno will be with us next season, but maybe 1 or 2 other outfield players. It'd be interesting to see who steps up there. Robinson's taken the armbands a few times as well, so he's a good candidate. But yeah, our midfield, I'm sorry, there's a huge drop-off. Maybe not in talent and vision when we're referring to TC, but he's 35 now. He's the legs just aren't there. And Reedy, yeah, we love him. Ginger Iniesta, the little engine that could. Great player, but we have moved on. And we wanted to move on, right? But we were just a little bit too late. as per usual in the summer transfer window.
Yeah, yeah. And as I said, I want to keep reiterating, we shouldn't read too much into this one. It's a second string 11, okay? Don't play together all the time. They've played one other game this season, which is a few weeks ago against Bristol, and we had a team come and park the bus basically in front of the goal. And we've just talked about the reason why we weren't able to create chances, and I think it just made everyone look a bit crap, really. Even Kevin struggled a bit in that first half, I thought, and looked a bit frustrated. A few snapshots that weren't really on that he took. Even dived into a challenge at one point into the right back, which looked a little, at first glance, looked a little bit reckless, but it didn't appear to be as bad when they showed the replay. But I think there was frustration creeping in to some of the attacking players, and I don't think anyone shone. In fact, the only players that really shone was probably at the back. I've seen a note from Black, White and Fred about Cuenca. He put in a fantastic block, actually, right near the end of the half to stop the Cambridge lad getting a shot on goal, which would have been their only shot on goal of the match. So I think credit to the defenders, who I think played really well and got a lot of good blocks in, particularly in that first half when Cambridge did broach forward. But I think the midfield really were the issue, and they were putting our attacking players in positions where they couldn't really impact the game. That's how I kind of saw it. Second half, though, Mark, lots better. I think we came out the blocks a lot quicker, moving the ball around faster. We started to create some chances. Was better. Not great, but it was better. Took a while to get that goal, though, right?
When the benchmark is that low, you're absolutely right. It was better because there wasn't all that much to beat. But yeah, we created a couple of chances. And I remember, I thought it was ESR, but it was actually Reedy. Reedy does a run from deep and he collects it and he launches it straight at the keeper. That was quite exciting. So there was a bit more movement there. There was a bit more pace. But, my argument is, why wasn't that from minute one? Why weren't we... But the longer we don't score, the more pressure we put on upon ourselves and the more hope we give Cambridge, right? And they had a very loud fan base that they brought with them. That was great to see. That was very exciting and good for those guys for coming all the way down. But they had a game plan. They executed it well. You're right. Our guys were getting frustrated. We did a little bit better in the second half, but I compare us to Brighton in the group chat. Brighton have won both their cup games 6-0, right? And I haven't watched the one against Oxford United, but the one against Barnsley, yes, the Barnsley defense is a little bit less organized, but I'm sure Brighton had to get through a low block as well. How did they do it? With pace. Yeah, they had some worldies in there, right? Not all 6 goals were perfectly well executed tactical goals or whatever you want to call them. But, they were fast and they passed into space. And Diego Gomez, I believe it was, 4 goals in one match. Incredible. So we did better. I'm glad we did better. I'm glad we got the win. But, the low block seems to be such a pain point for us ever since the championship. We always... Weirdly, I'm more confident playing a team nearer or around us or better placed than us than someone that we know is struggling. Because when we know we're playing like a newly promoted team or a struggling team, we know they're going to low block us and we just struggle. We really find it difficult to break them down.
I know you've given Brighton as a good example, but it is, there's always been cup upsets, whether it's the Carabao Cup or the FA Cup over the years. And the reason for those cup upsets are because the low block's quite an effective strategy, right? There's been countless times over the years where lower league teams put everyone behind the ball, get the breakaway, get the goal and cause the big upset that knocks a, Premier League team out. And, so I don't think it's a given that you can just turn up and expect to walk over these teams. There's a way of doing it, and I think we've talked about it. If you can move the ball quicker, you can kind of get round them before they can, box out the penalty area, which we took too long to do. There's no doubt about that. But, on the flip side of Brighton yesterday, you only have to look at teams like Chelsea. I mean, they were 1-0 down to Lincoln for a large part of that game and just about got it over the line. Liverpool were playing Championship Southampton, took them until the last few minutes to get the winner. We've already seen Man United fall at the hands of Grimsby. So it is tricky. And that's why the Cup is fantastic, because teams can come in, make the game, neutralize your attack and just try and hit you on the break. But fortunately, I think what we did do well is we upped the pace in the second half and really limited them to very few breaks. And as I said, I think the defence deserves a lot of credit, because we did look really solid back there. And another point, Mark, Lecomte, thought he was very tidy through the whole game. Looks more than adequate backup. So pretty pleased with him too.
Yeah.
Any players that you want to, obviously we haven't spoke much about players like Kevin and Adama and Raul. Any observations on those guys that you want to talk about?
Not really. I think you raised a good point that Kevin was getting a bit frustrated, but in a good way. I think he just really wants to prove himself. There's been some murmurings that he's he's very pleased to be here. He appreciates how much the fans are rooting for him, and he wants to sort of show that he's worth the price tag, right? And he wants to start in the Premier League, and he has every sort of capability to do so. He's very fast. He's very exciting. Maybe he needs to learn the way Marco wants to play a little bit more, but very, very high hopes for Kevin. Adama as well. You can't really use him against like an ultra low block where people are already in play and they're doubling up on him, so that's a bit difficult. But yeah, I just really regret that we didn't score more earlier, so we could have given Kusi Asare a run out. That was what I wanted to see. I wanted to see Chuku. I wanted to see our new signings, basically. And we only saw one of them. And even Chukwueze, he sort of wasn't really seeing much of the ball in the beginning. So it's difficult to really have a concrete opinion on what he can offer. But, hopefully we'll see more of him as the season goes on.
Yeah, no, I feel that way as well about, you can't read too much into the performances in this game, because just, the type of game it was. But yeah, look, I saw Kevin, a few people say, didn't play great. I mean, I thought he was still quite exciting, particularly in the second half. I thought the Cambridge right back was having a really good game, and he had a lot of support around him as well. But Kevin's got quick feet, he's very direct. He played with a lot of intent to try and make things happen. Just, he did rush a few shots, I think, out of frustration. And I think a couple of the balls he put into the box kind of overhit a little bit. So, and again, I just think it was the game. I think it was the game state. I think it was tricky for him to find space that he wanted to deliver better quality. But I'd say I was still fairly impressed with him just because of his intent, and he showed something different, particularly to Adama on the other side, who really struggled just generally to have any impact on the game. I thought ESR turns up with another goal for ESR. That was a good move. Good ball into the box. Great effort by Raul. And Timmy Castagna, who I actually thought played pretty well, with a lot of drive and purpose. He got the ball, played a very nice ball back into the box, and up pops ESR again in a goal-scoring position. He's got that in his locker, Mark. He's second goal of the season now, both kind of around the 6-yard box. I think ASR's had a reasonably good start, despite the fact he's not started many games. And I'm pleased that he's scoring goals. You think he's going to have a bigger impact this year?
I hope so. And what I like about ESR, which is something I've heard from my Gunners friends that he does, is he's very good at crashing the box, whether it's a late run or whether he sort of hangs about there. And he Castagna, that is, completely bamboozles the defense and the goalkeeper. Because after Raul gets that sort of, jumping shot on target, just very impressive. And credit to the goalkeeper for being ready for it and palming it away in a relatively safe area. Yeah. Castagna gets there first. I was certain Castagna was going to shoot. Right, and I think that's what everyone else was thinking, including the goalkeeper who braces himself and the defenders who are trying to rush Castagna, who puts it right back into the 6-yard box where ESR is there waiting to pounce. a player of his quality, he won't miss from there. It's very rare that he will. So I think that was clever from ESR to be there, clever from Castagna to take that look up, choose not to shoot, and send it, fizzing towards ESR. So I'm glad that worked for us. Now,
Yeah.
what I wanted to see is I wanted to see more of that because that's how you beat a low block, right? With pace and confusion. So they think the immediate danger is over. They're gearing up for an angle for the second shot, but we make the unexpected pass and we're ready to pounce on that opportunity. So that was very, very welcome to see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And not long after that, obviously the subs started coming on. We saw Rodrigo, Muniz, and King off the bench, and they combined to almost score a second. Not quite sure how the defender kept that one out, to be honest. It looked like, it was just going to be tapped in by King on the defenders managed to kind of slide in and clear it off the line. Great block.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, another example of what you were just saying, quick movement, getting the ball moving quickly through to the striker. And yeah, it was unlucky that it wasn't 2-0, I thought. The only kind of downer, I think, potential downer, is that after that, there's a few people noticed that Rodrigo appeared to tug his hamstring a bit after that move. After the game, he kind of went down, had some treatment. I think we're all hoping in Marco's press conference tomorrow that both he and Kevin have come through unscathed and without any serious injury that's going to keep either of them out for any length of time, I think. Just two players we haven't talked about, Mark. First was Anthony Robinson. Good to see him back. Personally thought he looked a bit rusty. His delivery was off, but good to see him back. Do you expect him to kind of go straight back into the starting 11 now, or do you think Cess, will on the meritocracy will keep that position a bit longer?
I find it very unlikely Robinson comes straight back in. One, because you like we all saw, the performance was a little bit rusty, and two, Marco won't want to rush it. He'll want to ease him back in. If it takes another game or 2 games, then that's how it is. We've managed all right. We'll talk about it later, but Villa are not the beast they've been the last couple of seasons, so there's no immediate need to sort of try and accelerate having our best 11 out. So I don't think he'll come straight back in. But yeah, Robbo, the athleticism seemed almost there. The delivery was 50-50, but hey, he contributed to the goal that won the game, so that's encouraging. And I'm very excited to see him and Kevin link up. I'm very excited to see the triangles they can build with whoever's in the 10 position and see what we can do from there. So huge part of the team and good to see him on the pitch.
Yeah. And the two at the back, Diop had a, pretty decent game, but Cuenca always seems to stand out. He's a quality player, isn't he?
Oh, what a bargain. What a bargain we got him from Villarreal. And it's nice to see when Chukwueze joined us that they knew each other. They gave each other a little high five and a hug. But Cuenca's a quality player for us. Once Bassi goes to AFCON, we've said it in the group. It's not a given that Bassi just sort of walks back into the team. Maybe Cuenca makes the place his own because he's been playing the last 3 or 4 matches, and he fights hard. He's strong. He's clever, composed, and he knows how to pass. So we've got amazing depth in the left back spot. Left back and left center back and right back, 2 places I'm very confident for us for.
And another player, sorry, just interrupt this. 1-0 to Aston Villa against Bologna. I've seen your favourite player, John McGinn's, open the scoring for Villa tonight. We'll come back to that.
Injury as well.
Yeah, yeah. We'll come back to that one. I think, and then you mentioned it before, Samuel Chukwueze made his debut off the bench. It was very quiet, I thought. He didn't really get a lot of the ball. He maybe lost it a couple of times. One thing I did notice, he's smaller than I thought. He's kind of small and skinny, isn't he? Like I had this vision that he was a little bit bigger than that, but I did notice he won a couple of free kicks, and I just wonder because of the style of footballer he is, quick feet, and being that size, I can see him winning a lot of free kicks down that side, which I think could be, an advantage. I remember like Jack Grealish used to, he's the kind of player that picks up loads and loads of free kicks that you can play into the box, into dangerous zones. I can see Chukwueze being a similar kind of player to that on the right. But there's just not enough really to really talk about his performance. He wasn't on the pitch long enough. And as I said, the game state at the time didn't really suit him, I don't think. Do you agree?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm excited to see what comes. We've been eyeballing him since last season. I know he did really well at Villarreal, so just a bit more time, bit more tape, and we'll see what we can do with him. But, we insisted on the option, so we must have a fair bit of faith in him.
I don't expect to see him anytime soon in the starting lineup. He looks like he's going to take a few more sub appearances and he's going to have to win that place off Harry Wilson. But it's nice to see him out there, basically, on the pitch. So we'll see what happens. After last night's games, we got the cup draw. There's a lot of big teams left in the cup. It's and I know there's been one or two Premier League sides knocked out, but there's still a lot of quality in the cup at the moment. And were you watching the draw live last night, Mark?
I caught the end of it, which was funny because we were the very last ball. And Wycombe came up and I was like, please Fulham, please Fulham, please Fulham. They're like, Fulham, yes! So I was chuffed. I think this is it's close to perfect. And maybe there was one other team that it was thrown in the Discord that is lower than Wycombe Wanderers, but whatever, come on. Better this than the Etihad, right? So
no, I think it's a good draw for us. We've avoided the likes of City, Liverpool, Tottenham, Newcastle, Chelsea. So to get a low league club again just gives an opportunity. It also means that we can, integrate some of the second string players. If we were playing Liverpool, for example, we'd probably have to go in a lot stronger. But it means that we can get minutes in the legs of the second 11. There might be a couple of changes here or there, but I think that's a good thing. Personally, it's great as well because that's really about 15 minutes down the road from where I live. So I'm looking forward to going to this one. Yeah, I think thereafter, if there's no upsets, it's going to be hard to avoid a big game. Liverpool, City, Tottenham draw Newcastle, so obviously only one of them can go through. But Liverpool, City, Chelsea, they're all playing lower league teams, so they're likely to progress. So I don't think we're going to get it easy in this competition the whole way. But what I would say is I think that's just how it is. You've got to beat big clubs along the way if you want to win silverware. I think we saw that last season with Newcastle. I think they beat Brentford, Chelsea, Arsenal and Liverpool, I believe, in the final. And even Palace, they beat us away. And then they beat Villa and Man City, I believe, in the final. So you can't avoid it. You've just got to step up when the time comes, Mark, don't you?
Yeah, 100%. And look, we have the players and we have the... I'm maybe, obviously, rose-tinted glasses as a Fulham fan, but still, other than Man City, for some reason, I have a phobia of them. But I think we can take any other team on our day. And even Man City, we had that great opportunity where they sort of squeezed out a 3-2 victory against us and then proceeded to lose against the next 8 teams, which makes the 3-2 seem kind of less impressive, which hurts. But we have a good side. We have a good manager. We have good structure. And we have good enough players to cause anyone trouble on our day. I would like to push that back to the semi-final if possible. But eventually it's going to come. And let's hope they underestimate us. Let's hope that City and Liverpool, whoever else, if they face us a bit early, say, screw it, we'll throw in 3 of the under-21s. And then before they know it, they're 2-0 down and throwing on all their first-team members.
Yeah. And the other point, of course, the last time we were in the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup, and I know we're going way ahead of ourselves here, but just go with it. The last time we were in the semi-finals was another AFCON year. I remember Iwobi and Bassi being out for the Liverpool games, and I thought it was a real blow at the time. We just didn't have the quality to kind of replace them. I'm a little bit more confident this time around. You know, we've just been talking about Cuenca. We've obviously got Kevin as well. Okay, Chukwueze's in the mix now as another player we'll lose, but I don't know. I just think that we're better equipped now to lose those guys than we were back then. And if we can progress to that stage, sure, I'll use it as an excuse if we go out, but I think we'd be better placed to to challenge it, depending on who we're playing, right?
100%. We love our AFCON players, don't we? I
Yeah.
mean, we had Zambo before and Seri and a few others, but yeah, a lot of talent there. But you're right. We've strengthened. I hope we strengthen more in January. God,
Yeah.
could we just spend 30 million on like a quality 8? Could we just,
Yeah.
whatever the release clause for Quinton Timber is, go to Feyenoord and be like, we'll pay it. Like, please, just give him to us. So yeah, that's my hope.
Yeah, no doubt they'll be saying it's difficult to do business in January, and we'll try and do something last minute. But I agree, we've needed an 8 for about 2 seasons, so yeah, it's about time we did that. Right, let's talk about Villa. Villa actually playing tonight. I think that's a good thing for us, really. It's always an advantage with the team you're playing has been in Europe the week before. I think teams notoriously struggle. Villa are home to Bologna. As I said, they're winning 1-0 at the moment, but they are playing their first choice 11. Villa have been, well, actually, let's skip ahead to the form slide here. They have not been in good form this season. It's been really surprising. I know this summer they were hampered by PSR issues, but I still expected them to start a lot better than this, Mark. They're struggling to score goals. I mean, what's going on there?
I have no idea. I think the fact that they didn't get Champions League has probably been a bit of a downer for them, because they did have some quality players, some expensive players with them last season with Marcus Rashford and Asensio. They obviously don't have them now. I have a bit of a weird history of Villa, so we're going to go into a short story time. But obviously they're a big club. They're historically a big club. They are a bigger club than us, right? Which I unfortunately had hammered into my head. But from ever since I knew them, we beat them at Wembley. And then from then until Emery, I always felt it was a 50-50. And we absolutely whipped them when they had Gerrard. 3-0. I think, Mitro got like the perfect hat-trick or something, right? Or was it like a...
I can't really remember.
Left foot, right foot header or something? Or there was a penalty in there. Or something crazy. So I've never really been like, oh, they're so amazing. Like, I just don't see them that way. Now, they have done well, and like Newcastle, they've built, right, from where they were to where they are now. But we've caught them at a really vulnerable point. And it would be so like us to give them their first win of the season. So I'm really hoping that doesn't happen. But I think there's been some real disruption, especially with Emi Martinez not getting the move he wanted to Man United, which is probably his last big payday. So I don't know who this new geezer is that they have. Maybe he's good, maybe he isn't. But I always used to really rate Martinez. And Martinez not being there and not being the shithouse he is, I think is an advantage for us.
Yeah, Marco Bizot is in goal tonight. Is that the guy you're talking about? I don't know who he is. Look, I look at their team on paper, and it still looks pretty strong. Obviously, last season they had Rashford on the left. Now they've got Buendia. Buendia, I've always thought was a pretty good player, but he's probably not at that level. I think they've got a new signing on the right. Gesand is his name. Don't know much about him. And it just looks like it's very strange. They've just struggled. Watkins has struggled to find the net this year. It's a very bizarre situation, but it does present us a bit of an opportunity, really. We're coming off the back of 3 wins, technically, if you include Cambridge. So we should go into this with confidence, I think. And okay, we don't win very often at Villa Park. I can't even remember the last time we won there. But Marco's team last year, put an end to a lot of records, unfavorable records.
Yep.
There's an opportunity here. I mean, certainly to at least get a point from the game, I think. But there could be opportunities to win if we can take advantage of Villa's poor form and get the crowd against them. How do we do that, Mark? Do we have to keep it tight to start with, and so Villa get frustrated, or do we go there and have a go on Sunday?
I'm in favor of the former, which Marco Silva is never going to do because we know he's a stubborn old goat and we play the Fulham way. But you're absolutely right. They haven't, and hopefully they don't today. Hopefully they get a draw or a loss. But they haven't won yet, right? And they're at home, and their fans know where they're at right now, and they will see Fulham as a lesser team, right? So they're expected to dominate the ball, dominate possession, and score. And if we can frustrate them, I'm not saying we don't attack at all, but we pick our moment, we keep it tight. I see Steve Reynolds says they're weak on the wing, so we control the midfield and just frustrate them and irritate them and play a shitty game of anti-football for 60 minutes, and then we hit them. I think they're there for the taking, right? Because they're going to be getting annoyed. The crowd's going to be jeering at them. I think footballers they feel the energy, right? They hear this stuff that the crowd is chanting at them. So the longer Villa go without scoring, the more desperate they're going to be, just to set things right. And that's when we have to hit them. Now, I don't think that's what's going to happen. We're going to try and go for them, man to man, sort of talent against talent. That could work in our favor. We do have a good team as well. But I like playing the psychological game. When we talk about certain players like Madison, certain players that you can get at, I think that's a huge advantage you can get if you understand what motivates the opposition team and what they have to achieve. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's about, we've been hard to score against from open play. I mean, we've let in a couple of set pieces and 3 penalties already, but we've been quite hard to get score against from open play. In fact, the Brentford goal last week was the first time this season in the league we'd conceded from open play. So I think if we can keep it tight, frustrate them, as Steve said, dominate the midfield, if we can take our chances, then fantastic and get ahead. But almost if we're in a position where the second half, we're into the second half and we're still 0-0, we know that we've got players off the bench that can come on against tired legs and win the game for us, don't we? I mean, this is the kind of game, I think, at 60 minutes, introducing Kevin, ESR, it could really change the game in our favour, because Villa won't give up and settle for a draw. They're going to want to win. So, but if we can bring players like that on to really stretch them and test them in the spaces they leave, I think that might be the opportunity for us. And I'm talking myself here into a position where I think we can win, which might be a bit naive. Are you expecting the same lineup as Brentford, Mark, or do you think there'll be 1 or 2 changes?
What, on the condition that Muniz is fit, he plays. And if that's the case, then the same lineup. Otherwise, it's going to be a straight swap Muniz for Raul. But yes, I don't expect any changes at all. We're going to play our usual first team. The double pivot of Berger Lukic kind of works in our favor here. I would have liked a fully fit, fully confident Robbo, but that's not going to happen. That's fine. But you're right.
We're in the playing well. Sess is playing well, isn't he?
Playing well, and he deserves it. Yeah, but you're right in that we're in the weird sort of position where our bench wingers are arguably better than our starting wingers, but they just haven't been in the club long enough. So, and I think that's relatively unique. Now we need to remember that Aston Villa also have a decent bench as well, with Jadon Sancho and Harvey Elliott. So Elliott's going to have a point to prove. I think that was actually a real mistake that Brentford made, putting on Carvalho on the 85th minute. You have a guy that is technical, intelligent, young and hungry, and dying to put one in the Fulham net, and you put him in the 85th minute? That is ridiculous. I have no idea what's going through Keith Andrews' head. Elliott will come on before the 85th minute, I'm pretty sure. And we need to be wary, because he's a good player. As much as some elements of the fan base don't like him, he's a talented player, and he has a good shot on him from range. So hopefully we can control the game, and put it to bed before he comes on.
I totally agree with you. He's the one I'm worried about. I rate him. I think he's a really good player. I thought when he used to get opportunities at Liverpool, I thought he looked a threat, and
Yes.
he was fantastic in the for England in the summer. England's under 21s. I thought he was the best player in the tournament. And I think there's even the possibility that he might start just because are they really going to play the same lineup that they're doing tonight on Sunday, with only 3 days rest? I think they might mix it up a little. I think we could see Watkins back in the team for the game against the game on Sunday. And I wouldn't be surprised by any means to see Harvey Elliott get an opportunity from the start. So he is definitely, for me, the danger man and the one that we need to watch out for and make sure that we're on top of, because he can punish us.
Yeah.
So, and he's also one of the only players that scored for Villa this season as well, which was in the Brentford Cup game a couple of weeks ago. So, he's one I think definitely to watch. And of course, we've got your mate as well, John McGinn. If there's going to be any, I mean, Sasa Lukic has got no chance of staying there yellow card free on Sunday, has he? With John McGinn in that midfield.
Just make sure it's a good crunching tackle, please. Please, Sasa. Just do it for the Fulham fans, because McGinn, God, one, he's been around for ages, and two, I know he's been a loyal, faithful, good servant for Villa, but just the time I caught him smiling at the camera as he faked being injured, that just instant hatred.
Yeah, he's a wanker. Yeah, he really is. And he'll be in the ref's ear and he'll be moaning at every tackle. He's going to frustrate. But we've been there before, so we just need to be smart to it.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I could see Lukic picking up would it be his fourth yellow already? I think.
Jesus.
So he's going to be on a suspension soon, by the looks of things. Okay, so Mark, your prediction for this one? How do you see it going?
I think I'm going to go with 2-1. We're going to score both in the second half, and then we're going to get a bit lazy and taken advantage of with 10 minutes to go, and then it's going to be squeaky bum time, as it always is when we're holding on to a 1-goal lead with 5-10 minutes to go. So I think 2-1 Fulham. I'm hopeful.
Yeah, that's super optimistic. I mean, I think draw is the most likely result, personally. I think I do. I think it's the most likely result and low scoring draw. I think if you're going to give a favourite, I think over who could win the game, I think you'd probably have to give it to Villa just because of the quality that they have and the fact that they're at home. But I do think there's an opportunity here. I think we've spoken about it. If we can keep it tight and take a chance, we're going to have a chance in this game, because I don't think it's going to be high scoring. You can clip that up when it's 4-3 or anything after the game, but I just get the feeling it's going to be tight, and we're just going to have to be really clinical with that chance that we get, and just be really, defensively solid as we have been for the majority of this season. But if I'm going to put a prediction on it, I'm going to go 0-0. I've put 0-0 in the Discord. I just have that feeling that's the kind of game it's going to be. Would you take a point, Mark, if you would offered it now?
No.
We're
going to win.
We're going to win. You want the free? Okay.
100%.
Okay, I like that. Okay, well, yeah, it's another exciting one. It's on Sky. It's 2 p.m. kickoff on Sunday, GMT. So I'm looking forward to watching that. I know, unfortunately, I can't go, but I know of the pods, Skibby's going and Michael Timbury. So I hope they have a fantastic afternoon, and I hope we all do. The rest of us watching back home on our television sets. So let's talk about the questions that we've been given in the Discord today, Mark. I don't know if you've got it open, but there's a few good ones in here. There was one actually that came through it actually arrived just after the Sunday's podcast with
yes, I think I know which one you're talking about. From Matty Gang.
Yeah, from Matt T Gang, who I think also leads the Discord Predictor League as well. So he's on fire at the moment. Mark, if you've got it open, I'll let you read this because my eyesight's not as good as yours, and you've got your glasses on.
All right, no problem. So, from Matty Gang on our Discord, genuine question: what takes us to the next step as a club at this point? Not necessarily position upgrades. And then he goes on to say, my perspective is that we don't have an obvious link right now, but we don't have many elite level players. Mentions that Leno, Jedi, and Bassi are maybe the exceptions, with upside, so potential for King, ESR, and Kevin. So their ceilings are elite. And then sort of Maddie finishes up with saying that we should sign at least one elite player or player of elite potential, regardless of position, every transfer window, and ideally two in summer. And this way we can sort of sustainably and gradually increase the quality and the caliber of the Fulham team. I think that sounds sensible. One, Dave, is that how you do it, or do you see any other ways that Fulham can sort of grow and
Yeah.
succeed as a team?
Well, they're already doing one really with this application to hold 6 concerts at Craven Cottage. And I know you laugh, but that's a great way
It
to bring
helps,
some
huh?
more revenue into the club.
Yeah.
That's only going to help the club with financial fair play and the likes and enable us to progress. I'd love to see more stadium development long term, just to bring other areas of the ground facilities up to a better level, and make it more of an arena if we're going to be hosting concerts now. So that's quite exciting. I think that helps. In terms of the player side, I think we need to sort our recruitment out. I don't know what went on this summer, but there was clearly issues with communication between Marco and the board, or lack of. That needs to be sorted out. You can't afford to have any weaknesses really in your setup. The Premier League's so competitive. If you're not firing, then you fall behind. We did manage to do some last minute business. I think in terms of one elite player, I think you've got to be really careful. Just because you spend 50, 60 million doesn't guarantee that player is going to be fantastic for you. We only have to look at ESR last season to see that. Or look at any player Man United have brought in the last 6 years. Just buying them because they've done well elsewhere for lots and lots of money doesn't necessarily guarantee they'll do it for you. So we do need to bring in and strengthen the team every year, but we need to do it. We need to be clever. We need to scout well, and we need to address areas. One area we didn't address this summer, we talked about it, centre midfield, and I do think that's an issue. But there's very few other areas where I'd say we're weak. So those I think are some areas I think I'd like to see us improve. And then also trying to get more, I suppose, sponsorship and money in. Basically, that's what we need.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, when you look at Tottenham, right? One, they have an amazing venue which hosts the NFL and other concerts. They have money coming in that way. They've also done a really good job of sort of making, until he left, obviously this season to the MLS, but they made Hyun-Min Son their talisman, right? And they got all of Korea behind them. So that's shirt sales, that's ticket sales, that's merch, that's support. So something like that would be very good. In terms of recruitment, I do think, and maybe we're already doing it, we just haven't seen it happen because we don't get communication on it. But once again, leaving it late and having multiple targets is fine in general, but there's got to be one or two players that we are certain, and maybe we've done it, right? We did it with Cuenca, or we did it with Lecomte. Obviously, he was very cheap, but they meet our valuation, and we need to action on it immediately. It still feels like maybe we have an idea of who we want and what we're willing to pay, but we try and lowball, and we try and go, oh, okay, well, we value this player at 20 million, and we've met 20 million, but maybe if we buy him for 15 million, that frees up another 5 million for another player, so maybe we can get him. And we're trying to do this giant jigsaw puzzle of trying to fit everyone in at the same time. But with that, you're making every deal contingent on the next, and that kind of messes things up.
Yeah.
I saw we had a comment from Steve Reynolds there.
Yeah,
Surely
he
having
did.
AEW as sponsors is a way of investing in the club. Oh hell yeah, I'd love that. Please take the sponsorship for like 150 million a season.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're going to have to change next year, I believe, anyway, because the gambling laws change finally. So, yeah, we're going to have to get a more ethical sponsor. Although I'm sure there's a loophole somewhere. Mark, what's the next question?
All right. So going back to the Villa theme, we have one from Barton. We have one from Fulham Fan News. We sort of touched on it a little bit, but still yet to happen. From Barton says, "What is the ideal result from a Fulham perspective for Villa tonight? A loss to continue the misery, a draw, or a win that prevents a siege mentality?"
Oof. I hadn't given it too much thought. I just thought the fact that the pure fact that they're playing tonight and exhausting energy on this game, 3 days before the game against us, I thought was a bonus. I hadn't thought too much in depth about what the best result would be. I don't know how much translates to league form. It's going to be a very different game against Bologna than it will be to Fulham. I guess think maybe a loss would you'd think that would be good, keep the morale down, but that's only going to go on so long. Eventually they're going to have to bounce back. So maybe a bit of maybe if they win tonight narrowly and get into a false sense of security, and then we can come and bring them back down to earth on Sunday. Maybe that's the right way to go. Who knows?
I'd also go with a loss though. I want them to keep losing. And then because I think that breeds desperation. More
Yeah.
fans on their back. At least some of the players read social media, right? Not all of them, but then it'll get in their heads. So yeah, I'm being very, very mean about it. But yeah. And Fulham Fan News says, "Am I mad for thinking that we can go to Villa Park and win?" No, you're not mad, Fulham Fan News. I am right there with you. And we have depressing Dave desperately, decrying our inevitable defeat.
Yeah, let's hope that nickname doesn't stick. I think I did say draw. I haven't called a loss today. I just trying to be realistic about it. I don't like saying win because then I feel like I'm jinxing it, like I've got any impact on what the game might happen in the game on Sunday. But just trying to think how the game might go, and I do think it's going to be nervy. We discussed how we think we might be able to win this game. Keeping it tight and then using our bench to try and capitalize late in the game when they're frustrated. So no, he's not mad to think that. But we've got to execute the game plan.
Yeah, very fair, very fair. Missed the draw, but you're right. You did say draw, and I'd take that. So long as Villa don't win, I can't.
Yeah,
please, anything but that. But yeah, and we have Skibby on the topic of having the Riverside be a venue. Who would be your dream gig at Craven Cottage?
Well, you first, Mark, on this one.
Oh no. Oh, for some reason I got Mr. Brightside in my head, but that's
God,
that's just one song, isn't it? That's not very good. Who would be my dream gig? I'm gonna go with a very basic bro answer. I saw Ed Sheeran once and I really liked it. So Ed Sheeran, because I know at least a few of the songs.
We really shouldn't have asked you about this one, Ed Sheeran. What would I like? I mean, it would be cool if a Fulham fan got a gig there, right? If it was like Example or the Maccabees or someone like that, would be pretty cool. I like 60s music, so I can't. Most of the people that I like, maybe the Stones, that Rolling Stones would be pretty cool, wouldn't it? At Craven Cottage, although trying to get a ticket for that would be like ridiculous. Right, let's go with the Rolling Stones. Why not?
I don't think that's that much better than Ed Sheeran, in my opinion. But
oh my God, I'm going to end the podcast now.
All right, just a couple more.
Ridiculous. Okay. What's the next question? We need to move on.
We got Spanish FFC Ultras saying, two-part question. Are we rushing Jedi back? Maybe, I don't think so. And is it time to rest King for a match? Two-part question. Rushing Jedi and time to rest King.
I think
Thoughts,
if we,
Dave?
I don't think we're rushing Jedi back. I think if we were rushing Jedi back, he'd have featured against Brentford. You know, he'd have been back in
Hmm.
the Premier League team. Looks like they're being really careful with him. And as we just said, we don't expect him to start on Sunday. So no, I think they're doing a pretty good job. And fortunately, Sess has been stepping up in his absence. Um, in terms of his dream, sorry, what was the second part to that question?
Is it time to rest King? Has King been sort of dropping off perhaps the last couple of matches?
Well, what do you think, Mark? I mean, I think it would, you know, given that he made an error in the last game, I think it might be damaging to his confidence. But then again, ESR is playing pretty well. So, what do you think?
This is one part of Marco's sort of attitude that I actually agree with. I don't think we need to replace him immediately. Yes, it was a pretty big error, right? But you're right that it'll be damaging to his confidence. And King was so positive and enjoyable to watch against Cambridge when he came on. He has that trickery and that pace and that composure. So I'd give him at least another game, if not more, to see how he does. Keep ESR hungry. ESR doesn't get his place back just after one or two good cameos, and then just keep them both competing for the spot. So I'd keep King for now.
Okay, cool. And I think is there one more from SCS? I think if I remember right, it was a really good one. I think he said it was on the overlap.
Yeah. This question from SCS is: if you could have been the scorer of any Fulham goal in history, which one would you choose?
It's an amazing question, isn't it?
That is a great question.
I I'm thinking like it just Tom Kearney at Wembley is probably the one, but that's a tricky one. Does anything jump to mind for you?
I'm gonna go with some boring recency bias, I'm afraid. Tom Kenny at Wembley was one of my picks as well. Um, but just last season was great. Was it last season? The season before? The Harry Wilson double. So the second one where he beats
Oh yeah,
Flecken, because those of you who watch this show know that I don't despise Flecken, but he's just so freaking out. He's the only goalkeeper I've seen he's been scored on when he's sort of like having a drink of water from his bottle. Like what? Terrible. Anyway, so Harry Wilson scores with his shoulder, beats our rivals in extra time. Amazing. Also the Iwobi goal at Old Trafford where he breaks the camera. Oh, great shout from Steve Reynolds. Kasami versus Palace. Underrated goal. Incredible control, incredible finish. Wallops it from outside the box. YouTube it now if you haven't seen it. I hope you have. But oh my god, if a top four scored that goal, they would not shut up about it. 100%. Really great goal. Dave, you?
yeah. It's either TC at Wembley. It might be Mooney's at Stamford Bridge. I think if I scored against Chelsea in
Oh,
the
that's a good one.
95th minute to win that game, I think I would just lose my marbles. So, yeah, one of those two. There might be others that I can't think of right now, but yeah, those would be awesome goals to be a part of. Mark, I've actually got one for you before you go, because there's been not strong rumours, but a few little rumours around West Ham, potentially their director of football quite interested in Marco Silva. They've also said the club are hesitant to pay a £8 to £10 million release fee, so it might not go anywhere. How concerned are you about potential of West Ham maybe trying to get Marco?
I
And
don't
is
think it's
there
gonna
any threat?
happen.
I suppose. Is there any threat? I guess.
Great question, and it'll be good to hear your
Thank you.
take on it as well. For me, I don't think it's going to happen because they're lower than us. They've been lower than us for a while. There's no guarantee he'll get the players he wants, and Marco, he's fixed it largely, but he did before he came to us have a reputation of jumping ship. I think if there was a move to happen, it would be at the end of this season where he said, "Hey, I was under no obligation. I did my what's it, year 5 now? I did my 5 years. I decided I wanted a new challenge. You can't say I jumped ship anymore." right?
Yeah.
Because the other team gave me a better contract. Whereas if they buy him out, that comes back a little bit into it, and he needs to start from scratch. You know, he needs to start from scratch with management that he doesn't know. They might be better, they might be worse, but he doesn't know. A team he doesn't know. I don't see why it's attractive. Now, Ruben Amorim getting fired. Manchester United. Tons of money. Big name. They're gonna laugh when we request 8 million. That's like what they spend on beers at the pub, like on a Tuesday afternoon,
Yeah,
right?
like,
So the fact
that'll
that West Ham are like wringing their hands over 8 million, guys, grow up, grow up. Really? Okay, so you're not very serious then. Let's just say that.
yeah.
Your opinion?
I think it'll end up being Nuno at West Ham, which I think would be a good appointment actually. But
Sure.
yeah, as you say, the only one thing I would say is that I think Marco was pretty frustrated this summer with how things went. And he is in the last year of his contract, but I just don't think he would leave us at this stage to jump to a team who are an inferior team. Not, I'm not saying they're an inferior club before the West Ham fans start tuning in about how massive they are, but yeah, certainly an inferior team. I don't think there'd be too many people that would argue with that. So it just, I think he would probably wait it out. He might consider that if he's out of contract in the summer. I'm not sure he'd consider that at the moment. So, but we'll
100%.
see. We'll see. Okay, think it's probably a good time to bring the show to a close. So thanks to everyone for joining us live and for sending in your questions and on the group actually and in the Discord. A link to the Discord is in the X post that we put out advertising tonight's show. I think we need to put this cup performance behind us now and look forward to the potential of winning 3 Premier League games in a row this Sunday. It's possible. Mark, in Mary's absence, can you do the honours tonight and sign us off?
You whites.
You are.